Yep, ready.
Okay, please rise and join me for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor, do this.
Let's pray. Almighty God, we thank you and praise you that you are gracious and merciful, abounding in steadfast love, that you are good to all and your mercies are over all that you have made. Acknowledge our unworthiness of your kindness and ask you to forgive our sins for Jesus' sake. Pray that you would be with our town board, tonight as they meet. We thank you for them and their gifts. And we pray that you would guide them in their decisions so that what they do would be for the good of all. And Lord, that your blessing would rest upon them. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. The first thing we're going to do this evening is go have a presentation on available land. Basically what our county planning department has done, along with our watershed affairs staff, is looked at just how much property is actually buildable in the township of Walton.
You should be fine.
Hi, Patty.
Is that going to hinder your recording? And over to you.
Do you want me to start again?
Okay, I handed out two things at the beginning that I just want to quickly, I'm not going to go over in too much detail, but just so you have them. The first one, the shorter two-page one, is a document that we handed out at the last Board of Supervisors meeting that kind of outlines some of the background for how we got where we are now. And then Spencer is going to present the building limitation analysis that he's done. And there are both some short-term and long-term outcomes of doing this kind of study. And the second handout is it looks like an email. It's actually, if you go to page 3 of that, I think, it actually, the document starts, which is a document that outlines the New York City funded flood buyout program evaluation and selection process. And this gives some detail into the program that New York City has set up, which is a program that you have to opt into if you are interested in it. And it outlines the different scenarios where New York City can potentially buy property. And I know you've actually had some of this conversation and are moving forward with some of this in Walton, but I just wanted to make sure everyone had the full document with all the details about how that program works, and just make sure that you understand that it is voluntary and it is something that you have to opt into. So you can peruse this, and you can always give me a call, or Spencer or Shelley can answer questions in more detail about that. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it right now, but so you have a copy of it.
All right, so I'm going to run through the steps and process.
I just realized who that was.
And once I get to that point, Shelley will take over and get into more of the numbers we came up with. So here's the 14 steps that, 14 steps that we looked at. The first 8 are pretty much from the EIS from New York City DEP, and this is what they use. The other step 9 through 14, we looked at zoning, the Course of Conservation and Agricultural easements, the land acquisition in New York State land, and we also put forest easements, saying, now the forest easement saying it's not going to say it's not developable, but it's a little bit more difficult to develop. And same thing with the step 14, more limited development. So basically what we started off was with the town of Walton. We started off with basically, here's the parcel, more or less a blank canvas. So we put on the slopes. So everything in that orange color, that's out. That's basically 15% or greater, can't build on. So step 2 through 6, which basically covers your streams, your wetlands, your water bodies, anything in that criteria, that's shown there. Step 7 is your floodplain, so basically anything in the purple, that's out. So you notice how this is, that blank white canvas is not being so white anymore? So we go through step 8, basically the NRCS hydraulic soil group. This slide, actually I didn't get a chance, but I did find out that this might change a little bit. There's a little bit more soil group D out there than from this data, so I might be able to take some more of that white away. Which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's more of a bad thing. Step 9, the zoning. So we basically went in and looked at the zoning requirements for both zoning districts we have. We said, all right, if it's in the R2, if it's 3 acres and under, can't build. You can't subdivide it. Same thing with the R5. If it's 10 acres or under, can't subdivide it. So those we eliminated. Alright, so step 10, we looked at the conservation and agricultural easements. So we took anything that had that, and we took that out. You can see that's in the green, predominantly green area. So, and then we moved on to step 11, which is the land acquisition, which is anything in the reddish pink color. And a quick point, that whole bottom half is outside the watershed. We haven't got to that yet. So that's not all the buildable land. That's just outside the watershed. All right, step 12, we're looking to, we take out New York State land. So now we go into the forest easements. So you can see how each time I go, it takes a little bit more out. So within the New York City watershed, I inverted the colors on this. So the orange now is the buildable land. So that's what's left of the canvas for the watershed part of the town of Walton.
You say orange or green?
Yeah, we just
Well, I call it black.
He's got different glasses.
Looks worse for me.
Green, right?
I think it's orange on your computer screen, it's green.
Yeah, it's definitely orange now. All right, so the colored in area is.
There you go.
So what we end up with, this is the buildable acreage. And for the water, again, I want to emphasize, this is for the watershed only. This does not include outside the watershed. So here's the acreage breakdown, and at this point, I think I'm going to let Shelley take over, and she can talk about the numbers.
Okay, so I wondered, what is the point of looking at this? What was important for us to understand is that in your town, you have 54,500 or so acres of land in the watershed in the town of Walton. Only 12,500 of it is considered buildable land. That's 23% of the land in your town that remains for buildability. So we took it one step further and kind of broke that down where the 54,000 acres. And as you'll see, when you start looking at the slopes, the water bodies, the DEC wetlands, conservation easements, the land acquisition lands, there's a lot of property that is unbuildable in the town of Walton. So the land acquisition program really starts to impact your ability to grow your tax base, your ability to grow as a community as a whole. So it's really important for us to keep our eye on how much buildable land, how much actual buildable land do you have that somebody could build something on. The land use of that land then becomes important. The area that's in, it's the pink shaded that's built out, right?
Yes.
The areas in the pink, those are parcels that actually already have something on them, some type of structure. So it starts to nick away a little bit more at what you actually have left as available. Some of those are larger lots that could potentially be subdivided depending on access and the slopes that they're on, or whether or not we could site a septic system on the site. But it's important to note those sites, those properties are actually already built on, so that starts to take away even more land. So what we're left with is under land use acreage, you have about 1,500, almost 1,600 acres of agricultural lands that are vacant that could potentially be built on. And you have vacant land of just under 3,000, 2,900 acres. And then the wild and forested conservation class code is about 790 acres. That's really, in reality, all you have that can be built on. So you're really looking at less than 5,000 acres in the entire town within the watershed that is left for building sites or for growth of your tax base in the town. It's pretty low number in comparison to the 54,000 acres you actually have in the town, in the watershed. So we took it one step further at the request of Mr. Gregory. He asked us to look at the building limitations outside the New York City watershed, thinking maybe that's our saving grace, maybe we have this left. Well, as you can see, the area that's colored in is not buildable. Between the state lands, the steep slopes, and the areas that are encumbered by floodplains and other natural features, you're even actually more limited there than you were in the rest of the town. So it doesn't really help you out at all. So again, you're looking at just an inverted version to show the colored areas is what you have left. And if you've noticed, a lot of those areas, if you look at the parcel boundaries, are tucked into the corners of areas that may not have road frontage. The reason we note that is that if it doesn't have road frontage for the buildable site, or it's based off of a steep slope and it's a plateau at the top of the steep slope, that may be a buildable piece on that lot, but that doesn't mean that lot's necessarily buildable. Because we do have to deal with the fact that you can't necessarily build a road that's accessible. You can't necessarily financially afford or feasibly afford to develop those sites unless maybe a wealthy second homeowner that's got the money to invest in a long, steep road. But it becomes very challenging. So those become sort of limited development areas. They certainly aren't areas that could be developed for commercial businesses and relocating businesses out of the floodplain, which is important. So the total buildable land outside the watershed, just about 7,000 acres, is only 14, just under 15% of that, of 1,000 acres. Again, you're very limited. So you're only adding another 1,000 to the 5,000 you had in the watershed. In your whole town, you have about 6,000 acres that's buildable. And again, this is a very limited study in that it's a paper study on a desktop. We actually would have to go out on these sites and see what else these parcels are encumbered by, whether it be access or some sort of utility easement that cuts the property in half, deed restrictions, deed covenants, anything else that could take it out of buildability, which a lot of these parcels actually have on them. So you really have quite a bit less than the 6,000 or so acres that's buildable. We don't know what those numbers are because we haven't been able to pull every single deed in the entire town to figure out which ones are encumbered by something and which ones aren't. But we have to assume that many of them will be, just from our experience. So the land use in that area, again, the peak is already built, so those are lots that probably couldn't be further subdivided or wouldn't be because the buildable area is already built. So that's just a breakdown of what's left. You have an acre of agricultural land, you couldn't build there anyway. Vacant land, you have about 500 acres and about 300 acres of wild forest and conservation lands. These are property classic codes, so this is what your assessor has classified the properties. That's what this is all based off of. So we know the town and the village have taken on the task of the local flood analysis. You're working on the LFAs, you've got a very active flood commission. You've been working very closely with the village to ensure that you're building in smart places, becoming more resilient flood-wise. So we've talked quite a bit about actually moving businesses and homes out of the floodplain, particularly in the village, which is most of your business district. So what we did is we decided we needed to really look at what's buildable within the village extension area. This is a mile outside the village boundaries of what you would have left if we were to relocate a business or homes or anything of that nature. As you can see, the colored is what you have to build on. You're very, very limited in where you could move things. And if you look at the parcel boundaries, you'll see again, a number of those areas that are buildable are not on road frontage. For businesses, it becomes very difficult to run sewer and water, making them attractive parcels. And it also becomes very difficult for transportation if they're not on the Route 10 or 206 corridors. So if you really focus on those areas, you'll see you don't really have a lot of space to go. You have only a few parcels that you could actually move those businesses to directly outside the village within that mile corridor.
Yeah, the green in this is actually the vacant. The rest has some structure on it. So the green is actually the vacant lot within that mile radius.
This is the the village extension areas, as part of the MOA, you were able to designate extension areas outside the village for future growth and development. So we decided that we were gonna look at the extension areas, hoping that maybe there'd be something in there, and again, you're very limited. The purple is, what is that?
The purple
Is the actual village
is
extension.
village
Okay.
section. Again, same thing is the brighter green is your vacant lots.
So within that purple, you only have 4 or 5 parcels that actually have a building site on them within those extension areas. Again, very much limiting your ability to move businesses out of Main Street and extend your Main Street to allow for growth of your tax base in your commercial district, for the, to make better decisions in regards to protecting your floodplains, which is the effort that your flood commission has been going through. So we really want to bring this to your attention so that you understand what we're looking at, the importance of these land acquisition programs and these easement programs and the effects that they've had on your community and your ability to grow, both to sustain what you have, but also to grow in the future for your tax base, to encourage new businesses to come here to create jobs, to provide for a place for the future for your youth. It becomes very challenging when we start to look at these maps.
So that was basically on our building limitations presentation. Again, like Shelley said, there's not a lot out there. And I think most people around here know that. You can just look outside and say, wow.
And this is
So-
just a desktop
Yeah.
search, mind you. This is done off of GIS maps. We haven't actually gone out on any of these sites. If we were to actually get out on these sites, you would see we actually even have further encumbrances to deal with. We don't mean to paint an extremely bleak picture, but as you can see, the decisions that we make regarding our land use moving forward in the future are going to become very, very important, because we don't have a lot of places to grow. We don't have a lot of places left for you to go other than what you already have built up. So our task here was to work with Watershed Affairs as we move forward with negotiating in the next FAD, but also in this current, is to really paint a more realistic picture than what they're proposing. I mean, they say that we actually have more buildable area than we do. They're looking at development pressure that we don't feel really exists. So we're trying to make sound arguments with sound backing with statistics and data and mapping. So the exercise that we've been going through in each town has become important to show which towns, if any, could actually afford more land acquisition and more easement programs, taking buildable land out. We're not finding a lot, unfortunately, but it is important for you as a community to understand moving forward what we do in regards to your land use decision-making process.
To add to that, recently received the New York City Watershed Land Acquisition Program 2017 Town Level Assessments. And according to that document, as of December 31st, 2016, New York City's acquired 5,501 acres of land in the town of Walton. That's out of a total acreage of 62,574 acres. And they project, they project to more than double that by the year 2025, with a total of 6,250 acres more that they'd like to acquire.
Yeah, and that unfortunately sounds like a lot, but to compare to some other towns in this county, that is a very small number compared to some of these other towns.
Do we know how much of what they've already done would have been developable?
Excuse me, thank you.
We actually didn't go to that level analysis because it's off the table. It's,
Right.
once they
Yeah.
purchase it, they put an easement on it, so even if we were able to get the land back, there is a process to get an easement removed to make it developable. It's not impossible, but it's more challenging and it could become costly.
Yep.
So our first step was to find out what we actually have available that's not encumbered by an easement or through the land acquisition program, and then have to look at our options. And one of our options may be trying to find a way to get some of those lands back that aren't as important to water quality.
How much of that land that you show that is available is gonna be restricted by not having road frontage?
Quite a bit of it, especially as you get in, especially if you get off the Route 10, 206 corridors. Walt does a great job with your town roads, but when you start talking about truck traffic for businesses, they're not built for that. They really need to be either on a county road or a state road, preferably the state roads, which are built to handle that kind of traffic. So to build some additional houses on a lot, or to get some second homeowners up here, you've got a few options, but if you start talking about trying to grow a commercial business or replace a commercial business is being bought out in the village as part of the village's flood buyout program for flood mitigation, you become much more limited because you really want those on those main corridors so you're not tearing up the town roads that just aren't built for that. They're not designed for that. In any town, that's not just Walton, all the towns, they don't design for that standard.
But
And
even
you shouldn't
for,
have to.
yeah, even for residential, we require, I mean, if you're gonna subdivide, we
You require road frontage.
road frontage, so that's gonna limit,
Yeah, it does, it absolutely limits it. Now, some of them may have road frontage, but you also have a steep slope.
right.
So driveway standards become an issue in a lot of towns as to whether they can even build a driveway with the slopes that they have to access it.
When we went through and looked at, because we did basically a quick parcel look of each one, saying, well, you know, there's a stream there, so Crab Bridge, more likely, it probably won't be developable. We were very conservative on what we took out, because we just didn't want somebody to say, oh, you just went in and took all of them out. So if there was any chance of something going there, we kept it in. But if you do a field search, you probably go out there and look at it and go, no way, no way you're gonna get a road in there.
And we will present this May 17th, actually, Watershed Affairs and Planning will be presenting this to the New York City DEP and the environmental partners involved in the FAD as sort of a reality check to get them to understand what we're really dealing with.
Where do they think they're gonna get 6,000 acres more land?
They don't care.
The city, they have to either, one, meet, the land has to be 50% steep slope, which is 15% of
50%
grade,
of grade.
or has to have
7%
7% of
water
water. Now, everybody says, oh, that slope one would take a lot. It's not that one. If you look at the water one takes more land than the slopes will ever today. Because you take that criteria and put a 300-foot buffer on it, it grabs a lot of land.
well, I mean, that's what they want to develop a lane, because they wanna limit it, right?
Yes, they do.
So, they're not interested in any of that, it's
No.
already off the table.
Yeah, they're not interested in top of the hill. They're interested in flat. The only time they really become interested in land if it's somebody, development gets interested in it.
Right.
Then they might be interested in it, but
And that's important as part of their solicitation, however, they buy land from people that are voluntarily selling. So, one of the trends we see a lot in the county is, you get somebody coming up here from the city and they buy a whole farm, say for instance. They then later subdivide out the house and the barns with 10 acres or so for their little piece of the pie and they sell the rest of it to the city voluntarily. The city will buy that if it meets the criteria,
Yep.
regardless. The solicitation of the more buildable land is certainly something they would be looking at, and it's probably the only thing that we could change at this point possibly is the amount of solicitation they do. We aren't gonna stop the land acquisition program, it's in the FAD at this point. But voluntarily, if somebody voluntarily offers to sell their property, they offer to sell their property.
Right.
And that does happen a lot more than you think it does. They're the highest bidder in most cases.
Yep. Get deep pockets there.
Yeah.
yes,
Sean,
Yes.
do you know off the top of your head approximately how much of a premium the city pays over what land generally sells for?
I really don't. I think it changes from community to community. They're not capped, I don't believe, in what they can offer, so.
They offer, generally my experience with them, from what I've heard, is that they're offering someplace between $2,500 and $3,500 an acre when the going rate maybe is $1,000 to $1,500.
And in other parts of the county around Middletown, Roxbury, they're offering $5,000, $7,500 per acre.
Wow.
Because the values are that much higher. I mean, just
Yeah.
with the buyouts we're doing from FEMA right now, the buyouts that we did in Margaretville versus the ones that we did in Sydney, there's a huge difference. The same size house on the same size lot in Margaretville is selling for $150,000 and is selling for $60,000 in Sydney. So depending on where you are in the county is going to drive how much that premium is.
But regardless of that, there's still the big dog with all the money. They're paying a premium for every land, so they're gonna be the high bidder on everything, basically.
They're definitely driving real estate prices in many ways, and they're driving it so that the local people that live here, make a living here, have a hard time affording anything.
Yeah, that's where I'm trying to
So
get at.
the
That
only
way
market
very
you have
concise.
that challenges what the city is offering is the second homeowner population or the people that are just looking to find their weekend home. They can afford to pay the same thing the city is paying. The locals can't afford to pay what the city is willing to pay.
And every year there becomes less and less property available for either that
Absolutely.
second home buyer to come up here, which they've been touting for years is gonna be the salvation for this area.
Yeah, and it's challenging too. A
When
lot of
the
your second
economy
homeowners,
improves, the second homeowners will be coming back here and.
they might, there's also been the argument made that second homeowners are great for, they pay their taxes, wonderful, but they don't put kids in your school.
Yeah,
They don't
Yeah.
volunteer on your fire department, they don't belong to your Rotary, your Lions Club, they don't go to your churches and support those other quality of life and necessary community organizations that are struggling so much. So as much as the second homeowners are great because they actually pay their tax bills every year, they aren't contributing to the other parts of what make your community whole.
thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not sure what
Let's
that
get rid of the
presentation.
Take care of it. Let's get rid of the
This was not painful at all.
Glad to hear that.
We could have South New York, just like there is,
It's,
Virginia and West Virginia.
Yeah. We send them back all the pajama people. Send them back all the pajama people.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you've all had a chance to see the minutes from the April 10th meeting. Uh, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
Second it.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed. Floor time. Would anybody like to address the board? Certainly,
No,
please.
just here,
Yeah.
just observing.
Okay. If not, then we'll go on to the highway report, please.
Well, I've been here a couple of months, so I got a lot to bring up here. Kevin shut me down on everything here. As you remember, last year it would have been around in, back in June, I think the date was June 11th. That's been the day after the board meeting in June, that I went and started the process of replacing the 2011 Dodge with a, hopefully hoping to get another 2016 Dodge. Well, threw all the thing in that was no longer available, and we got through, but make a long story short, it finally showed up May 1st. So June 14th to May 1st, that's a long time, longer than I thought. But anyway, we've got a truck. And with that, we're gonna be replacing, the 2017, replacing the 2011. I'm thinking we're not gonna have any, I thought we weren't gonna have any snow, but I saw some this morning, but I'd like to have, see if you'd entertain the idea of surplusing the 2011 Dodge 5500 with a 9-foot snowplow on it, and it comes with a flatbed on it. For not gas for the site.
Plan
Yeah.
to do all that.
That's what we,
2011?
2011. If you need the VIN number on that, I don't have that with me, but I can get that.
I'll make a motion to declare that surplus.
Have a motion.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
So we'll do that on Auctions International, same as we did.
And I'll get to it one of these days. And actually, we did replace also truck number 8 with the Western Star with the tall truck, and that was delivered one, that Freightliner that we got in Hawaii. I'd like to have a little more time to get the comfort level on that. I did drive it for a little bit, plowed a couple times, but had some warranty work. Actually, the wing got tore off it and went underneath and did some damage to the truck. And we just got it back from Henderson, the one that put that. They warranted the wing and all the wing tower and all the other to the tune probably in the $9,000 range. We had a few expenses to go with it. I'd like to hold off on surplusing the Ken wheeler until it has a better comfort level. Probably going to be nothing cheap. And I don't know how well a plow truck would sell this time of the year. I don't know if
I was gonna say in the fall might be a little more interest in it.
the only thing is, it's a little bit older.
Yeah, not that much, a few months, you're only talking.
A few months. That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Any questions?
He's a regular army more.
I'll tell you what, this is not where it's at.
Okay, if not, Rhonda?
Okay, everyone should have a copy of my financial report. Currently, I'm 88% I'm 88% collected with taxes, and now all the unpaids will be payable at the Delaware County Treasurer's Office. The total amount that I am returning is $498,846.28, which is right about average from previous years. Last month, I held off on the proposals for a new copier. I did receive 2 proposals. One of them was for $3,806, and the other one was for $2,799. So if that's something, what is going on is the upstairs copier is really no longer functional, depends on what day it is. And the downstairs copier is still usable, we still have a maintenance agreement on it, but it's just starting to, if you got a lot of use, we're starting to have some problems with it. So we'd like to move that one upstairs, so people don't have to run all the way downstairs just to make one copy. And then purchase a new one.
Which one of the 2 bids fits your needs best?
Both of the machines were very similar, I mean, very similar. Page, per page and everything per copy was within 1 or 2 pages. They, the size of the paper holders were like 100, 150 for bypass, and then 500 for all the other sheets. The screens were about the same. One was a little bit bigger, a 7-inch versus a 9-inch. So the 2700 one would be just fine. And they would actually move the old copier for us free of charge.
All right. Recommend that we go with that then. if
I
that
think
works.
now's the time to do it instead of when we start having problems with both of them, and without having the
Yeah.
copier, we would really be in trouble. So. Would you make your motion?
Yes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, any additional discussion? If not, all in favor? Opposed? Passed.
And then I sent everyone an email, I forwarded on, and Charlie may have a little bit more information if he wants to share, but we have a request for a use of facility for Moore Park for a ham radio overnight event. So they're seeking permission. They're self-contained within, their campers and everything. They were looking to tap into the electric pole that is there right now. We just have to seek, further information as to how we can do that and how we can build them separately for that. But otherwise, they said if they could not, they still have generators that they would be able to use.
The ham radio club really come in handy when we have emergency. If we're comms down, that gives us the ability to reach out. So I think this is a good use of our park. The electric, we think it's paid by the Booster Club, so we'll need to approach them. But at this time, what we'd like to do is approve the use of the park. And
It's 2-day event.
June.
starting Saturday the 24th and going through the afternoon of the 25th.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be a watching as far as electrical cost goes.
Yeah. And they were only asking for one outlet. So
Yeah, like I
They're
said, I
gonna
think
use an awful
it's
lot of
gonna be
electricity, and I think, for the benefit of what we get out of them during times of emergency, that we should
Yeah.
approve it without any question. And if it's our electricity, we should, not charge them for it.
Like I say, some watching.
I'll entertain a motion that we approve the use
I
of the park.
motion that we
Motion
approve it,
made.
yeah.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Yeah, in a place like this, for ham radios becomes very important.
And they actually drill with that, and they organized several years ago. I'm not saying just the Walton group, there's a Margaretville group and all together.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few of them that are actually uncompensated county employees and the board of supervisors that during the time of emergency when they're needed, they've got a protocol, they've got their bylaws or their rules and regulations together, and they fit right into the system.
They become part of the emergency operating center during a countywide disaster.
All right, and that is all I have.
Okay. Mr. Dutcher?
You have my reports, making progress, slowed a little bit on dog licenses, but we're still making progress. We'll keep plugging away there. Nothing really other to add, other than community rating system. I am going to forward to the board via email a flood insurance and coverage improvement plan that we developed at the Flood Commission as part of the program for public information. You don't need to do anything with it. The requirement is that I forward it to the governing bodies, so the village and town boards will be getting a copy of it. Look through it if you got any questions, suggestions, that's fine, because again, it's kind of a, every January we'll be taking a look at it and making changes as we see fit, so. I just have to have documentation that I have forwarded that to the governing bodies. So when you see it, you'll know why.
What was the title of that again?
It's a long title.
Oh, okay.
Flood insurance study and coverage and improvement plan.
Okay.
And basically what it amounts to is, we took a look at, the information provided to us from FEMA as far as how many structures are covered, what's the level of coverage, how many claims have been made, that sort of thing. And then take a look at our flood zones and where we could improve coverage, or at least make an attempt at improving coverage by doing outreach programs, direct mailings, flyers, handed out, that sort of thing. So read through it. Like I said, if you got any questions, by all means, let me know. I think that's it.
Okay, I'll kick it off and you can chime in. Last week, the Flood Commission met. We met down at Veterans Plaza. In the morning, what we did is we walked through the Water Street project area where we're going to be excavating the soil down there, moving that out to give the consulting firm that was with us a feel firsthand of here's what our vision is for there. So we did a walk through there. We looked at we also went up to across from the school bus garage where next to Sunoco, where that was excavated. The idea is what possibilities are there that we could possibly use that for those two properties for. Once Sunoco, it's there now, what could we use it for? And Water Street property, what can we use that for once we finish the excavation? Did that in the morning. In the afternoon, we met with the business owners on Delaware Street to try to get inputs from them as to what they see the challenges for the village and how they might like to see that improved. One of the things that came across is what can we do to improve the appearance of Delaware Street? That was kind of one of the recurring things. So what they're going to do is, they've taken the inputs, they're going to gather those. We expect to have community workshops in the future where folks can come in and share their ideas as to what to do. There is some grant money that we could possibly tap into to enhance the appearance of Delaware Street. A lot of the folks brought up some of the improvements that have been done over at Oneonta. Maybe we can do some things like that. So. Steve, anything else?
Yeah, I think a number of years ago, a plan was developed whereby they were going to remove all the telephone poles from Main Street. We're going to forward that on to the.
And I think was supposed to be willing to bury all the power lines on the ground.
What does that really do for us? What does that really do for us? That's a lot of money spent for. What is that going to do for us?
It cleans up your
the
Main
sidewalks.
Street and makes it look a whole lot more presentable. And I think that, well, I know that the consultants that are on board are gonna be able to we've got pictures looking down Main Street now of what it looks like. They'll be able to provide some renderings that show what it can look like without all of that extra clutter down there, the telephone poles and all that sort of thing, and make, the goal is to try to make your main business area feel like a place that you want to go, as opposed to
That
having to.
floods, like Delaware Street floods burying the power lines is a good idea?
It's not a bad idea. You can certainly put electric in the ground that, I mean, it has to be rated for wet locations anyway, because you're putting it in the ground, so that's, it's,
For
in
one
the end,
thing,
it's
it's
probably
gonna
better
remove
off.
all the sidewalks and make them all the same. I mean, that, just taking the poles out and burying the line, automatically you're doing all the sidewalks
Right.
on brand new. And that by itself is
Well,
an enhancement.
one of the things they talked about is by doing that, and just as Doc said, we might be able to get some on-street parking back on Delaware Street
Right.
by maybe adjusting the size of the parking, of the sidewalks if the poles are gone. So that's another thing that they'll be looking at as well. Still making sure that there's room enough for tractor trailers that are coming through.
I'm trying to remember, what was the hang up on that project a few years ago when we
Money.
first came up with that?
Flood.
It happened right,
The flood of
Before
2006
the-
had happened and it got put on the back burner.
No, we talked about this afterwards.
Well, there may have been talk about.
After 2006, yeah.
I mean, the impetus for it came well before the flood, and they basically got plans in their hands,
Right.
and they were gonna move forward, and the
'Cause
flood hit.
I remember
At that time, I think it was to relocate the poles to the back of the buildings, so they ran behind the
Right.
street down through, but burying it's a much better
Yeah.
philosophy. The other option that's very helpful in protecting a village like this with a lot of old buildings is that those power lines that go down the north side of the street are a real detriment to firefighting operations. Okay, because you can't get an aerial ladder within
Right.
so many feet
That makes sense.
of a power line. And one of them's a
Big
44,000
Your hair starts
kV.
lighting up before you get close to it.
Yeah. So, you know, you really have to be really careful, and sometimes you can't get to buildings.
I remember when Family Shopping Center burned, that was an issue.
So this
We
would
didn't
involve
need
the phone lines and everything else.
yes.
Yes.
Where am I gonna hang my Christmas decorations?
They're gonna put in nice light posts down through there, you can just hang one on each light post.
You gotta think
the
everything
smaller-
through here.
Buy new ones,
And again, these are all ideas that are being tossed around, which was the whole point of it, is get
Right.
some ideas out there, you know,
Yeah.
how do you know, because the way one person envisions it is gonna be different than another person, but if you get all those ideas out there, you
Yeah.
eventually come to a consensus. And
Yeah, I mean, that 15-minute parking on both sides of the street will be an enhancement to businesses. You know, I mean, take a place like Moto, for example. Somebody wanna go in and get a quick cup of coffee, rather than parking all the way in the back and, you know, they're more likely to do it, you know? So I think that there's a lot of benefits to it.
That's one of the things that the consultant pointed out. He said, the locals, we know that there's parking out back, but the people that are passing through town, they don't know that. And when they
Well, I
see
think
the
parking on
cars
Delaware
there,
Street would be a great idea, but I don't know how you do that. I mean, the
When I came to town, we had parking on Delaware Street.
Yeah.
All the way down through.
Yeah.
so the sidewalks were smaller, is what you're saying?
No, they didn't
Less-
have,
they didn't have
they
two
didn't have
lanes.
that turn lane.
Less
those
traffic
turn
lanes,
lanes.
yeah.
So, but that's what you're gonna have to take out, is you're gonna have to take out the lanes of traffic, not the sidewalks.
Well,
Well, you can
already-
do both.
The way it's set up
but-
right now,
Yeah.
we wanna get, the state DOT wants to get the people through fast. I think if you wanna have a thriving business, if people going too fast, you want people to go through slow.
Correct.
Right now, it's set up to go through fast.
So for example, you could easily make a commercial vehicle bypass where the Wall Street is back and coming all the way out by McDonald's and going straight up.
Right.
You know, or you could, you know, somehow, and leave Main Street at a slower pace for regular local vehicles, you see? So I think that there's ways of doing it, you know?
and that was one of the things that came up that was suggested from in the afternoon session, is a truck route, that there'd be a way to do that. So, folks, just idea of things that might be coming. We'll keep everybody posted as we go forward. Okay, anything else, Steve? Thank you. Okay, then it's supervisor's time. We have two things to start out with. The Community Development Block Grant, we have two applications for approval. One for $27,000 and a little, $27,574, and another for $58,283. Again, this is money that Delaware Opportunity manages for us. It's grant money, so it's not out of the town budget, but it requires the town to approve the expenditures. So,
We have copies of those, correct?
Yes.
yes,
Is this a first-time home buyers, or what is this for?
yes.
Oh, it is,
Yep.
okay.
And in talking to Linda Hipp from Delaware Opportunities this morning, the current cycle is about to close out. But again, for folks that might be watching this online, this is a good opportunity for folks that are just breaking into the housing market to get some financial help in doing that. And it covers not just the purchase price of the home, but if there's improvements that need to be made to bring it up to standards to qualify for a mortgage, there's funds for that too. So again, folks, keep in mind that there's help out there. So I'll entertain a motion authorizing me to sign these two forms.
So moved.
Motion made, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed? Okay. The next thing we have is the lawnmower that Milt's been using to do the lawn here, and some of the other mowing he's been doing is in bad shape. He's taken it back to get it fixed, and we're looking for authorization to purchase a new mower for approximately $240.
I'll make a motion that we purchase it.
Motion made,
Second.
made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
It's a push lawnmower, right?
It'd be a push mower, yep. All opposed?
And he
Passed.
does Veterans Plaza in here, that's what he's using that for.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah. The side things, he does have a riding one that he does too, but this will mostly be used for the cemeteries.
We buying it locally or we buying it away from?
Locally, McGinn.
the next thing on the agenda is, and folks, for those that are looking at the agendas, there are a couple additions to the ones that were put up here, so I apologize for that. The next is the Veterans Plaza dedication. We had talked to the veterans last April about possibly having a dedication for the plaza in conjunction with the Memorial Day Parade. It appears now that we're not gonna have the stonework anchored and all in time. Plus, because the parade would be stopping on Main Street and they're limited to how much time they can cut down the traffic, my recommendation is that we hold the dedication ceremony separate from the Memorial Day Parade. That's my recommendation. Thoughts on that?
We need to have the stuff there to dedicate, so.
Yeah.
If it's not gonna be done, we've got to do that. I just don't think we should just keep kicking it down the can, down there either.
I'm looking at some time in, before the 4th of July, so that it's ready. I'm not sure, Saturday, the 24th of June,
Graduation.
that's graduation, okay. Then, brings us, the 17th of June, Saturday the 17th. And I'm thinking Saturday, because that would give folks flexibility to come, school kids to come, folks from out of town that might be up to like 2:10.
Saturday 17th.
What time of day are we doing?
10 a.m. Okay, so I'll give the veterans and let them know that we'll do it a separate occasion and not deviate on the parade route. That gives us a little more flexibility, a little more time to get the stones placed, the monuments. We've had 2 monuments donated, one from the Chamber of Commerce acknowledging their gift of the flagpole, and one for honoring the veterans past and present.
And then we have
And benches, we also have
benches.
benches.
that are still at much color.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding somebody that will
This is the
set
day
this up.
before Father's Day,
This bunch.
10 a.m.
It's not their forte. not a problem, I mean, the stones are there, that's not the problem. You can bar them up and whatever you gotta do. It's a matter of having somebody that knows what they're doing with concrete, so. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a concrete worker.
Okay. And we have some good news with regards to Veterans Plaza, and that is that we're gonna have the farmer's market down there this summer. So they'll be there twice a week, I'm sorry, twice a month. Looking at the, I think it's the first and third Wednesday during July and August and September, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So it'll be a lot more convenient for folks because there's parking right next to it. Folks can do their shopping at the farmer's market. If they still need to go and get groceries, they can walk across the street to Big M. So I think it'll, and as people drive through that may not have thought of it, it'll be a catch their attention. And so I'm happy that the Cooperative Extension is going to extend that opportunity to us.
Charlie, what's that, first and third? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yep.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. July,
Starting
August,
July
and
1st.
September. 10 to 2.
Is there a sign there that says parking? I mean, just so people are coming through that aren't familiar, that maybe even if it's a temporary one they put up where they have the market, there's
Instead of
parking.
public parking, you
Right.
should have
Is there a
that.
municipal parking sign with them?
Not anymore.
No?
It used to be, but I don't think it's there.
Can we get one?
That was something I think came up in
The
the,
village's parking lot, they'd have to get it.
in our discussions with the flood commission.
But even if we had something they could put up when they're having the farmer's market that says,
Right, even a sandwich.
I think they
Farmers
have a
market
sandwich
parking
board
or
that they put
something,
up, but I don't know if it says anything about parking, but they.
it'd be nice to have one for, so people know where to come by and see that, they know where to park.
Well, there's those parking spaces that are marked out for the Family Dollar there, that are right up next to the road.
Yeah.
People might see,
I
I don't know how Family Dollar would feel about that, but
You
it
know, I
might
think,
help their business.
I think, you know, people that come out of town or to go through here, and then antique shops are there, and sometimes parking lot is a problem. Parking is a problem, so I would think that having a recognizable parking sign, municipal parking sign, would be good for them. I mean, yeah, it's the village responsibility, but we should kind of push the issue.
Well, we know their code enforcement guy, we probably could take it back to them.
You probably have an ordinance on signs.
It's not a big
They
deal, I
just
mean,
put up a sign.
it's
at
a
the crosswalk
commercially,
right in front of
it's
there.
a commercially available sign.
That's state
It's just an
property,
issue of digging a hole and putting it in.
That's a state road, so the state probably.
The state put that up.
They got rules and regulations. If you're in the right way.
Okay, next on the agenda is just a heads up to y'all. You know, we talked previously about pursuing timber harvesting on the property behind the town sheds. We have a forester that's gonna be looking at that and identifying if it's economically feasible to move forward on that. So, again, this is another way to bring in income to the town. So we'll keep folks posted on that.
It's also being a good steward of the environment, to harvest those trees that are ready.
Next, currently software, we have current software on the assessor's computer, that's the most recent one.
So they're gonna harvest and plant.
So far, we've just talked to them about the harvesting.
Well, I mean, if you really wanna do the right thing, you plant at the same time you harvest. I mean, that's the way it should be done, you know?
But there's a lot of stuff up on that hillside that'll grow now after the mature trees are
I
harvested.
mean,
They're already-
I'm not,
already
you
there.
know,
Yeah.
a forester, but I think that you wanna reassure that that's the replenishable resource.
Let
There, so
me-
10 years from now, they have another crop of trees, you know,
Mhm.
type of situation.
Well,
Which I think is a problem that has been having county-wise with harvesting of trees, you know, people want to make a quick buck and say, oh, yeah, I have, you know, $10,000 worth of wood in my backyard, but then they forget about what's gonna happen down the road, you know? I think that, especially when the state property, like if you go down from the radio station up there.
Big clear cut.
And they clear cut that there,
I don't know
and
what.
this, it looks horrible, and on top of that,
That'll be
they didn't-
60,
they-
80 years before that's back.
yeah, and they didn't plant anything in there. That's ridiculous.
They had a reason for it, but I'm not sure what it was.
To do it,
Yeah, I don't know what the
to
reason.
clear cut it?
Yeah. I've never seen them
That's
do
a,
that before.
that's a management practice, they've done it, in several places, you know, on any given chunk of state land, but certainly on Bear Spring. It's a management practice where they'll go in and they'll clear cut an area, whether it's a couple acres or whatever the case may be, and allow that, low shrubby growth to grow up. Eventually it will grow back in forest, but that low, thick stuff that everybody cusses and swears about, that you can't walk through,
It's
is
different
good habitat. It's good habitat for any of the animals that are up there, so that's why they do it. I don't,
Wow.
The forester has been trying to get in contact with me, and I let him know that, because I'll be out of town for Alaska for a couple of weeks, that Walton, to talk to you, you know, land down there better than anyone.
Right up there.
Okay, moving on, currently a lot of our computers are using old software, 2007, Office 2007. We'd like to go ahead and upgrade those so we're standardized. It's getting to the point where sometimes we can't open up documents that come in or stuff that we send out, people have trouble. So we,
Higher than 2007 Microsoft, I'm not a fan of, but I know we have to do it, but it's just not its own.
so we're looking at at least five computers, and so it'll be Rhonda's, mine, Steve's, Walton. We've got the previous assessor's desktop and the previous assessor's laptop that will be coming back. And then there's your Walt's, so we'll see what software is on those. We're looking to do this in June, after the dust settles with the tax collection and everything else, so just want to let the board know about that, that's where we intend to go. Any questions on that?
No, except the newer software, you can open, I've had very good luck with it in terms of being able to open old documents and current stuff. And I sometimes have problems opening some of your documents when they come through, so.
Good, so hopefully we'll put that to rest. The next, few years back, we talked about extending South River Road straight through to Beers Brook. Discussed that with the planning board. The property owner isn't interested in giving us a right-of-way. The rationale for doing that is, as you probably recall from previous discussions, the culvert that passes as South River Road continues south and then does a sharp turn out to Route 10. There's a culvert that it goes over that floods easily. That is our alternate route for down that side to get to the hospital. Looking at what our alternatives, you thought by running an extension straight to Beers Brook across that property, that would avoid having to go over the bridge, the culvert, and avoid the lower area. That's not gonna work. We're not gonna do eminent domain, no. So last week, Steve, Walt, and I went up and met with Wayne Reynolds of the County Highway Department to look at our options. And Steve came up with a very good idea, looking at, instead of going and putting in a bridge or a larger culvert, perhaps going on New York City property and taking that back on the upper side of the brook to Beers Brook. We wouldn't have to put in a new bridge because there's a good bridge on Beers Brook now. That would clear up the area for where the culvert is now to alleviate some of the flooding, and we wouldn't have to take private property. Good for New York City in that they lose, it's better for flood control, possibly good for us, and we don't take anybody's property. So, wanted
How
to-
much road is that?
Let me,
We figured that, it added a tenth, maybe 6 tenths.
yeah, you're looking at the original proposal was 3/10 thereabouts, and this proposal, or maybe it's vice versa. The original proposal was 2/10, this proposal is 3/10.
Yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
And this is then our town road, not, or city road? This is town road,
Maybe town road.
but you can't
I
close the
wanted
other
to go
part
right
of the
through the
town.
house right
Steve, do
there.
you
I
have
thought
any
that was
idea of
good.
the
I
street
had-
This house right here,
No,
there?
that one?
yeah, that's the one.
Okay, yeah, I thought that would work better, that might through there.
Mhm.
The red lines are purely just a notional to give you a feel for what we're referring to.
That's what you were
And this
planning
would come out
before.
on 10 or on Beers Brook?
Here's,
Come on, beer.
So this would be just past
Still has to be
Emerson's?
putting a bridge
Yep,
in.
yep.
You want to
So,
spend-
yeah, that's Butch's house there, so it's just.
Why would you have to still be putting a bridge in to go out on 10?
You still have to get across the brook. You go
See the
above.
water's right back.
This is,
Oh, I see, because here's the brook.
yeah, there's the brook. As long as we stay 100 feet, I think the city likes you to stay 100 feet away from their water course when possible.
And this is cheaper than a bridge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely, yeah.
Bridge down there was a 33-foot span that there was, and you're probably in the $750,000 to $1 million range. Plus being that wide and narrow, it's on what they call an alluvial fan, which is gravel moves all the time in the stream, and it's relatively flat there, so you're gonna find that gravel, probably over the years before my time. The brook went here, and then it went to the left, it's been to the right, then all that. We've been controlling it now because of the pipe, and when it does get bad, some stream maintenance in there. But over the last, hundreds of years, that is what they call, not the scientific part of the engineering in that. There's a
If you look at it, Patty, when the water is down, there sometimes will be like 3 or 4 fingers of water that go down through that because of where the gravel builds up.
And even there's so much gravel in there, so little water, you get into August and that, sometimes you don't even see
Yeah, there's
the
not a lot of
water.
water in there.
The water is still going through there, but there's so much gravel you can't see. And that would become a nightmare, a maintenance nightmare.
Other problem is down, we discussed this at the highway, and probably in our lifetime, that pipe will probably last, but sooner or later, when that pipe goes bad,
Patty lives.
then they're gonna come in and do an analysis of how much water flow, and they're gonna make us,
County or the city.
there our hands
You won't
gonna
be
be
able to get a
forced.
permit from the
Right.
DEC without having the hydraulics correct.
Right, and then
We've
they'll-
run
they're gonna
into
make us
that
go
now.
like,
Practice range. and there's-
they'll come in and do a hydraulic analysis, just like we ran into up at Fish Hollow. And they'll dictate what size you have to put in. So we
Well,
would
they don't know, you don't have to do that, but they won't give you permit unless you.
Actually, that's South
Or you
River
hire
Road
an
and Beers
engineer,
Brook.
Yeah.
come in and do the hydraulic analysis,
South River
and
Road
have the
goes across to Beers
an
Brook.
engineer with a stamp say something.
You actually go back a little bit.
I mean, it's in no big rush as far as the structural strength of
Right.
the pipe that's in there, but at some point that's gonna have to be replaced.
So what we're looking
It's gonna
for,
cost big bucks.
what we're
But
looking for
This is
now,
leaving this open too. I mean, this is gonna stay open, this is gonna be open.
Down to that, yeah, but this, that pipe would come out and give them the land, the land, that'd be the land swap, that's what the thought is. From the, removing the structure, the pipe.
How
Give
long
the
was
city
this?
back the land over.
Well, actually, it's over.
Steve, do you
So
remember?
that's the road.
It's not shown on the.
It's,
I
I think the original proposal where we just came off that corner and went,
The way I
you know,
was
basically straight out to the bridge, to
Yeah.
Brook Bridge, that was like 2/10.
DEPs
And this proposal is 3/10,
3/10.
plus or minus. So you're looking at an initial, probably less than 1/10 of a mile.
But that was also considering abandoning all that down there, and it's probably the landowner.
Oh, I see,
So
yeah.
we're really,
Right.
pretty much.
The DC
swamp. We're
down
not
here.
negligible.
I cannot.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so you're not abandoning this,
That was like, it
that's
used to be
Yes.
South River Road now.
This is just in there, I'm not sure that's
I
exactly
know,
where it's gonna be.
right,
That's
but-
the idea.
but-
From the culvert to Route 10 would be
Be abandoned.
abandoned.
Right.
There's
The
no
other
need to
side
keep
of
it
the
at
culvert,
that point.
but not to the, you know, home, the camp, or whatever, they would still have access.
Those
You
pipes
still
can be
have
taken out
access
of
down
there.
to Route 10.
Might help a little bit more with.
They would have to, instead
High
of,
water
they'd have to
issues.
go Route 10, they'd have to go.
Because you don't have that restriction there anymore.
So instead of going,
Why would you close this to do this? Why couldn't you have both?
because the idea is to
Eliminate that culvert.
the flooding culvert.
I thought the idea was to have access. And this is gonna be
Emergency
access, whether
access.
that's
Well, the-
culvert
We're gonna
or
put in
not.
one road and remove another one. Remove a portion of it.
if you leave that there, then the potential exists that it's going to get plugged up. If it gets plugged up, then you have to maintain
What
it.
she's, I think what she's getting
I
at, why not have two
Right,
roads?
why not have them both? But I guess the argument is, why would you leave something there that you don't desperately need and then have to maintain it?
Plus, Patty, if you, leave that, that's still an obstruction to the flow of the water that's draining out of the village and coming down this way.
I think the other thing too is, if we're talking about dealing with the city, taking that out is probably an advantage for them. We might be able to make this go through better.
I can't speak for that, but I think in negotiations, if we're talking to them about the feasibility of this, they're gonna wanna get something out of it.
Right.
If we were removing the structure, the water quality has gotta be improved in there, they don't have to,
Right.
they would be more.
So
It
your
would be our
route,
own
you wouldn't
zone.
have Route 10 access to South River, you'd have to go on Beard
That's
Road.
correct. It's like down at the very end of that, now South River Road comes to almost a T, that used to actually go straight through there and come out right at Beers Brook. And you can, if you look, you can, if you really look, you can still see the trees, that's probably
That's
Back
what
when
we're
I-
doing.
34 years ago. But
So-
it used to be, yeah, South
Yeah,
River Road
they
used to come.
came down kind of wide together.
Yeah, they all met right there at the precinct down there, the old precinct.
And DOT would be happy if there's one less access point for them.
Oh, they love that.
So what we're looking for the board now is a thumbs up, or now shall we pursue this further? Any objections to us continuing to look into this?
No.
Okay, then. Okay,
Okay, say nothing.
I don't
You
know
leave
whether I
that.
object or not, it doesn't matter because I ballot voted it.
That's not bad.
the next thing, we talked about complete streets last month, and one of the questions that y'all asked was, what other towns have they adapted, say, the safe streets, complete streets? Davenport, Colchester, Middletown, Delhi, in Delaware County, in Schoharie County, Jefferson and Blenheim, and up in Richfield Springs are all townships that have adopted complete streets resolutions. One of the things that they suggested was, because cost, we don't want to put ourselves into a bind where we have to do some work, but now it's going to be expensive to incorporate, we're tied into this. I think the wording where it says may, we need to do that, but also, one of the things they suggested is that we place a limit, whether it be 10, 15, 20%, no more than X percentage cost added to incorporate the complete streets. So would that consider would that
Well, then, it's not gonna say shall, it's gonna say may.
may?
Shall means that you have to.
Right.
I know, but that's not what we were talking about last time.
That's
That
one
would
of the
be
things.
important.
Is that what other towns have done? Again, or?
Let's see if I have.
You sent that out, but I don't have it
Yeah.
from me. I looked at it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know you did send an email out.
Middletown was very, brief. Let me answer that question. I'll send out Delhi and specifically look at, and what I'll do is,
If it doesn't commit us to doing that and
Right.
and we put in a thing that, I don't care, I don't see where it really does anything for us, but it doesn't hurt us either if we don't have to do it, so.
okay, so then we'll table this till next meeting. I'll come up with a draft that incorporates the percentages, and make sure it says may. Okay,
Is it the may that we want or could, or what's the word we want? Is it may?
You just want to avoid the shall.
Yes, just anything but shall.
It's May now.
okay. Next thing, We have a resolution dealing with biodigester. There's
Craft, put out some closures. Did they name where yet?
no, I
This
just saw that.
This is very well.
And I have copies for folks if you'd like to.
Here.
Pass those around. And I think this is significant enough that if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read it so we have it on the record. The title, Resolution Encouraging the Village of Walton to follow New York State Comptroller's recommendation to abandon the village's biodigester project. Whereas, New York State Comptroller's Office performed an audit of the Village of Walton Biodigester Capital Plan covering the period of June 1st, 2015 to August 16th, 2016. And whereas the audit determined that adding a biodigester subjects the village to significant risks if the potential users discontinue operations or opt not to use the biodigester, the village will continue to incur substantial costs. And whereas the village officials have stated that the cost of the project would be fully covered by the fees from 3 companies disposing of organic waste byproduct, and whereas it is unclear whether the largest of these companies intends to utilize the biodigester, and whereas the New York State Comptroller's Office considers it not to be prudent to rely on the disposal fees from the largest company in cost-benefit analysis, and whereas the efforts to plan for the biodigester have already cost the Village of Walton $451,000, which was financed by a $650,000 bond anticipation note, which will have to be repaid. And whereas the village is currently $6,799,091.31 in debt, and whereas the largest company has decreased production by 1/3, thus reducing their share of the operating costs of the village wastewater treatment plant, necessitating the shifting of these costs to residential and other business users, resulting in higher water bills already for the village users that will continue should the plant close and remain vacant for a substantial amount of time. And whereas if the biodigester were to prove unprofitable, the village taxpayers would be held responsible for making up the shortfall in operating expenses. And whereas the increase in village taxes to cover the shortfall would serve as a disincentive for businesses and prospective home buyers to invest in property within the village limits. And now therefore be it resolved that the town of Walton strongly urges the village to comply with the controller's recommendations and 1, consider abandoning the biodigester project, and 2, to determine if the $1.5 million grant offered to the village for biogas diversion can be used to pay off the $451,000 of costs already incurred. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution. Motion's been made.
Second.
A second. I'd like to do a roll call vote on this.
Councilman Armstrong?
Aye.
Councilman Governor?
Aye.
Councilman Rodriguez-Benapert?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wood?
Aye.
Supervisor Gregory?
Aye.
All in favor, motion carried.
Thank you.
Charlie, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Here, in your final whereas paragraph, I'm sorry. In your 2 final whereas paragraphs, you indicate that the village taxpayers are going to be held responsible. My understanding was that it's the village water district users and not all of the taxpayers. I'm just asking for clarification on that.
Right now, I don't have the answer to that, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
What is the difference between the water district?
Because it's only the people who are using the water will have to pay, which narrows that considerably.
Even
So it's not all of the village taxpayers, it's just those of us who are using the water and sewer.
How many tax,
How are you a village taxpayer and not using the water?
Because there are certain places in the village that don't have,
That aren't hooked up to the
Right.
water?
Right.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
But the majority probably,
it is,
it's very
it is
limited,
the
I
majority.
think.
Very
It is the
few,
majority.
there are a few.
I think
Just
it's,
certain streets,
I
so.
think it's important to know too, that the reason we're concerned about this, because if the village were to become financially unstable and decide to dissolve, then it becomes our problem.
Well, all of the taxpayers of town.
Right. Well, I mean, then we would have a district, it would still be the same people paying for it, but it still would become a burden for the town to take over.
Can I also ask you, Kurt? On your first recommendation, can you explain to me the word consider versus just, don't you want them to abandon it? So,
That was the recommendation of the comptroller.
The Comptroller's office did not come out and say you need to abandon it. They said they should be considering eliminating the project. So we have to kind of follow their language.
thank you.
Afterwards, you see, I can show you. just-
Anyone,
That's fine, I just,
Yeah.
I
Okay,
didn't,
so that's-
I wanted, personally, I want it to be as strong as possible, and that's what I was, so, but I understand.
does anybody know what the cost of operation of the water plant is? Because it's not being run by the village, it's being run by a private company that the village is paying.
Delaware Engineering, I think is.
Well, it's an,
Delaware Operating Systems, whatever it is.
which is an offshoot of,
Yeah.
yeah.
And New York City helps offset the cost of the sewer plant.
How much do they pay this company for their services to run the, I mean, this new water meters issues and stuff like that, there's a lot of outcry about people's water bills after the new and upgraded water meters, going up and up and up.
My water bill's not up.
The principal on the water meter project is $21,134.08. I'm sorry, yes. That's the bond that they have on that.
But that's separate, water, getting water in here, is separate
Yeah.
from the operation of that facility.
Yeah, I just wondering how much they're paying for that whole operation of that plant. Because I don't see that there could be too many people involved in it. It's a pretty automated system.
They have 14 employees, I think, down there. Because isn't that what they
10
quoted as?
10 supervisors and 4 employees, or 4 real employees? Because I know at least 2 supervisors and don't know anything there.
Well, I think that's a village board question, not ours. So I think the only reason we're weighing in on this at all is, as
Yeah.
Kevin said, if they dissolve, then it comes in our lap, and at the cost,
Well, and
as they're saying, that's a possibility.
given the amount of potential increase in tax revenue in the village area, and given, okay, their debt level, there's a very strong chance that we're
Well,
gonna be
that
stuck with that
presentation just
bill.
showed us that there's not much room in Walton to
Exactly.
grow, so therefore we have
Yeah.
a stagnant tax base and we can't be
Yeah,
putting in.
people need to realize how possible that is.
Right.
It's very possible.
Okay, moving on, I'd like to touch,
Oh, excuse me, one more thing before we
Yes.
go on to this one, sorry. Ron, it would be possible, considering what our resolution says, we put a link on our website to the controller's report so that people can access it easily. I think it'd probably take up too much room to mount my preference would be to mount the whole thing on our website, but I think that would probably take up too much
Right,
space.
we can add the link to it.
I don't wanna see this become a us versus them thing with the village, but I just feel that this is important that we need to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me kind of give a quick rundown on some of the things that are happening up at the county. One of the things that's recently come to the forefront of public awareness is the share services mandate that the governor included in the state budget. There was a workshop last week that I attended, and some of the other supervisors did in Binghamton. There are other workshops, Albany, and down south throughout the state. What they're looking for is encouraging towns and villages to find additional ways to share services. Unfortunately, the state plan does not allow us to take credit for the many things that we're doing already. For instance, we have share agreements with Colchester and Tompkins. Our town highway department works well with our village highway crews. When they need help, they help each other out. We're doing that all the time throughout the county. We have the hydro seeder that we share throughout the county. So when another town may need additional equipment, we pitch in to help. So we're already doing that, but unfortunately, we can't claim credit for that. So what the process is going to be is that there'll be a panel formed of the 19 supervisors and the 10 mayors in the county, chaired by Chairwoman Tina Walton, to look at coming up with additional shared services. Working at that, there'll be at least 3 public meetings throughout the county to discuss this. The individual communities have the opportunity to pull recommendations that they feel was not economically viable. And the whole thing needs to be wrapped up by October, so you'll be seeing more of that. Unfortunately, the presentation that was given in Roxbury, I asked the New York State, gentleman from New York State that presented it, why was New York City exempt from it? His answer was, well, they're already doing it. I asked, well, why can't we take credit for the things we're already doing? His answer was, well, the governor wants to see new initiatives. So it's okay for New York City to claim what they're already doing, but it's not okay for us to do it.
No,
And unfortunately, there's no funds to offset the cost of this, so again, another unfunded mandate from Albany. With regards to the relocation of the Department of Public Works, at the last board meeting, additional sites were brought forward to be looked at. 2 in Hamden, 1 in Delancey, 1 up Stanford Way. So we're looking at those, and we'll bring you up to speed on that. At this Wednesday's board meeting, Board of Supervisors meeting, the company that's been identified to design the new mental health clinic will be giving a presentation on that. The Office of the Aging, again, I think I mentioned last month that the church where we had been, the former church that Office of the Aging has been using for the past 39 years, has been sold, so we're looking for a new place. We're still looking at a couple of places, but we don't have a firm recommendation to take forward to the Board of Supervisors at this time. That's kind of...
What did you say about mental health, that they're the people who have been hired to design it,
Yes.
but they still have not fixed the spot?
No.
How did they design something when they don't know what spot they're putting it at?
One of the things that they'll look at is the 3 sites, and
Isn't that gonna cost Delaware County a lot more money to design 3 spots, which is the 3 spots, why don't they make the decision and then design?
They will,
They're not designing 3 different,
no, they're gonna design.
they're looking at them 3 spots and see which one's the
fit
best.
their design better.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I thought they were, like, we're doing architectural drawings for 3 spots.
No, no. One site, looking at the 3 locations, say, okay, based on our experience, our analysis, the data that you've collected.
So this will determine the spot, is what this is basically.
They'll make a recommendation.
They'll make a
but
recommendation
still
to the board of
not-
supervisors.
That company won't.
They don't make the decision, I understand, but that's toward, going toward that decision.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there are stupider things that happen that they design free buildings. I'm just saying. So I thought it was worth asking.
Okay, committee reports.
Where are the flowers that, on Veterans Plaza? Like all the hostas that were in the back? Looks like they're gone. Do you know?
They're dead.
Well, they were gonna be dead, but, they're supposed to come back. So,
As far as I know, yeah, I think they basically rotted away.
Yeah,
Because, I
because
mean,
of
the
the
ones-
water immersion.
Yeah, the ones up the sides are there, and they're fine, but just the ones across the back, they can't swim.
Well, exactly. They don't have snorkels.
Something else I was gonna ask you about Veterans Plaza. Gosh, what the heck was it? I thought I wrote it down.
The electrical?
No, that's done. I don't remember. I'll ask Jeff when I remember if I remember. There are people who are willing to donate more hostas to Veterans Plaza. I'm assuming that if that it did kill them, then we shouldn't put them back there. But then what are we going to put back there as a border? Rocks?
I think I would hold off putting anything back there until
Yeah.
Water Street is done.
Yeah.
Well, after Water Street's done, we don't need any Veterans Plaza to be a park, do we? When it's done?
Well, I mean, when it's done, yeah, I mean, we can still utilize it, we can still beautify it if that's what we wish to do.
The problem is the way the street is back, higher back there. It's a block, so it's gonna pond in there, and anything that you put in there, oil and water lilies is gonna be.
Well, rocks don't have to.
Huh?
Rocks, I'm talking about big, you know, like Austin Lincoln has rocks so you don't drive
Oh.
on it. That was the point.
Oh,
That was one of the points
yeah,
of the.
people not driving on it,
Right.
okay.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what
They're
I
actually gonna interfere with the flow.
Yeah, we don't wanna
Yeah.
stick rocks down there, and we can get some vegetative border down there, but across the back, it doesn't make sense to do anything until Water Street is done, because that area is going to have to be dug up again to get the drainage in there that we need, so that it doesn't pond down there. So there's no sense in putting anything there until that's done.
well, the only sense of it was, like I said, access, that people don't drive across it. Because, you know, we've posted that as much as we can, and
Oh.
it still happens.
It still
I mean,
happens.
I mean, eventually can put a fence or some posts, individual posts with birdhouses on them, something, I mean.
You could
Back
probably
there,
do
I mean,
posts
some
and rail
posts-
back there.
Put like 6 posts back there by themselves with nothing in between, just to, you know.
Well, I guess we'll see if people drive across it, but that was part of the reason.
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot of rock in there too. Somebody driving across there is gonna really mess up their vehicle.
And I don't think that was the issue back there anyway, I mean, still the issue was up front, I
When
see
they drove
somebody,
on it, yeah.
somebody in the middle of this winter cut across there, so.
If you wanna see how people like to drive across the park, take a ride up Moore Park sometime. Any spring, doesn't matter.
I don't know if I've mentioned, going back to the Flood Commission in the past, one of the other initiatives that the Flood Commission is pursuing is, if you think the Underwoods, either side of Underwoods, starting on the McDonald's side, you've got the drive-in, but then the parking space. Well, if you look, you go from Delaware Street up and back down, and we're looking at the possibility of lowering that so that the water from Delaware Street will flow right back. The same on the other side, on the Veterans Plaza side of Underwood, so that the water will more rapidly go off of Delaware Street. That'll be a long, we're taking that separate from the Water Street project, because we don't want to delay the Water Street project for the design work.
Charlie, one thing I want to bring on behalf of the Fair Board, I want to thank Walt and the highway crew for bringing the excavator down to.
About 30 gallons.
Okay. We borrowed the chipper for the fairgrounds to do some cleanup work. We also borrowed the excavator, so that was greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Walt. Any other committee reports? If not, I have one pen and ink change to the abstracts that are as printed in the the agenda. For General Fund A, we've added one more invoice, so it should be 88 to 100. And the new total sum for General Fund A is $22,631.01. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended abstract. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed. We'd like to go into the executive session, folks. There's some things that we need to talk about with the craft litigation. So thank you all for coming tonight.
I have a question for you.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Project, are you gonna open that one year round?